Ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Chris B. Daniels, and once again, welcome to another episode of Show and Talk. So tonight, we're going to be talking about another episode of Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and this is episode 11, season 2. So, as always, before we get started, I want to talk about my childhood experiences with this particular episode. So, on this one here, I remember every single last one of them. And most of the stories in this episode had something to do, with spirits, dealing with spirits, saving lives and everything. You know what I'm saying? But the first story was definitely fate, and it wasn't the good fate. Spoiler alert. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first story. So the first story is called Bon Voyage. And this story has to do with a couple who are on this cruise with this other couple. Now, for the sake of the story, I'm going to say the main couple and then the opposite couple. So apparently, these two couples were friends. And the opposite couple, they were getting very fascinated by what the main couple was, talking about. Um, because the main couple had a story that was so amazing that they wanted to share it. Well, at first they wasn't trying to, but the opposite couple begged the main couple to tell them about the story that happened 22 years earlier when they first got married. So what happened was, because this was a story within the story. So the main couple was telling the story. So what happened was, it was one morning while they were in bed in a hotel, and when they woke up, both of their rings somehow had fused together on their fingers. So their hands were pretty much stuck together. And that's not even possible in real life. Not that I know of, at least. I must be a dumbass if it is. But anyway, um, they couldn't, they couldn't pull their fingers out of the rings because their fingers swelled up so much. And so they had to call the jeweler in the hotel to come up to their room to saw the rings off. So the jeweler was able to separate their hands. And if that did not happen, it was a cruise they were supposed to be scheduled for that particular day. And what happened was they didn't make it because of that ring incident. But if they would have went on this cruise as scheduled, they would have died along with the rest of the passengers that was on this cruise. It was this, I forgot which one they said it was, but it was this particular cruise that had a major like accident, or it was a major incident. It was like a notorious incident that took place, but everybody there on there died, I believe. So they got lucky and got up out that situation. Now they were on this cruise right here with this opposite couple. They're all the opposite couple were amazed about what happened. You know what I'm saying? They were just so like fascinated and so amazed. But the crazy part about this whole story was the fact that both of these couples were actually on the Hindenburg. So after the main couple told the opposite couple their story about this little incident, everybody from their respective tables had got up to look out the window. And I believe they were, making landfall, or they was about to land. But somehow the Hindenburg had caught on fire. And everybody on there except for one person died. And I was like, man, you escape one situation to fall right into another. My thing is, this happened back in 1937. Even back then, I take one look at that thing, I ain't getting on. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do it. But this story for me, it gets 8.5 out of 10. It kept my attention. But anyway, story number 2, the man in the Model T. Now this one right here was kind of weird. in the beginning, but at the same time, it was like kind of depressing as well. So it's about this mother daughter team who goes out to these swap meets every weekend or every other weekend or whenever. And the mother is trying to raise money for her daughter to go to college. But the problem that they're having is the fact that all of the items that they have on display is nothing that customers are really interested in. You know what I'm saying? So the mother was getting ready to just pack up and go home, and then they seen this guy pull up in his Model T truck, right? And the first people he greeted when he got out of the truck was the mother and daughter. And so when the guy unloaded, unloaded his display for everybody to buy, a lot of people were fascinated. Now, the funniest part is when this one guy who was trying to buy something from the mother and daughter, but he didn't see nothing interesting. He went to the guy in a Model T and he kept asking the guy, how much for this, how much for that. And the guy just kept saying, well, how much do you got? You know what I'm saying? And so the man just got annoyed and walked away. And so not long after that, the little girl, or the girl, you know what I'm saying, she was looking at like this colorful lamp that she was fascinated by. And so the man in the Model T, showed up. And then he asked her, is that something she wants? And she really, really did want it. So she was asking him, or telling him that she couldn't afford it. You know what I'm saying? It looks like an expensive lamp. And he said, well, just give me what you got. And all she had was $3. So she gave him the $3 and he sold her the lamp. You know what I'm saying? So at first, it's been a while since I've seen this. I thought it was the lamp that was valuable. But no. What happened was after the guy had left, he left this treasure chest behind. You know what I'm saying? This chest. And the little girl was trying to tell him that, he left something behind, but he told the girl that that chest came with the lamp came with that chest. You know what I'm saying? So when the mother and daughter looked at it, they saw that it was items from the Titanic. And come to find out, the items proved to be legit. And so the mother and daughter, they sold all that stuff, and the mother was able to get the money to send her daughter off to school. Thought it was pretty good, That story ended really nicely. So I had to give that story at least an 8 out of 10. It wasn't particularly, great, but it was a good story. But moving on, story number 3, The Scoop. So this one takes place even further back in time in 18, let me see, was it 1883? Somewhere along those lines, but it's about this reporter or this journalist or news, this journalist or reporter, and everybody in the office was typing up, different stories that they was hearing about, and he just couldn't figure out what to write about. He was having a hard time, writer's block, trying to figure out what he could write about, and his boss kept, pretty much kept reprimanding him about not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? So he decided to sleep in at the office until he came up with an idea. And so he had this dream later on that night about this volcanic eruption and all these like waves just coming out of nowhere. It was like a horrible incident in his dream. So the second he woke up, he had to write about it. And by the time he was done, he was like extremely tired. So he had packed up and he went home, but accidentally left the story in a typewriter. And so when everybody came in the next day, the guy that was collecting the stories took his and gave it to the boss or whatever. So the boss, he was reading it and he was like extremely excited for what this dude wrote. But the problem was when the guy came in, he informed his boss that it was all made up. It was just from his dream. So then his boss had to write a retraction, which is something that no newspaper ever wanted to do. Notice I said wanted. But, he had to print up a retraction. But before it happened, he had got this letter, and it was informing him that it was an incident that took place in the think it was Indonesia island. Yeah, Indonesia island, Krakatoa, about the volcano erupting. And then basically the same exact thing that he wrote happened. And so his boss told him to come to the office when he got there. And when he got there, his boss told him, everything happened exactly how he wrote it. And the guy was mystified because he just couldn't figure it out. So that's pretty much how the story ended. You know what I'm saying? Basically, he wrote something from his dream and it wound up coming true. Talk about being lucky. I give this story, and I'll give it an 8 as well. It was all right. It did keep my attention once again. Um, the next one. Now, this one right here, I'm gonna tell you now. I'm gonna give it a 9.5 already. But it's called Angel on Board. So it's about this lady. She's taking a vacation to the Bahamas, and she was showing the flight attendant her ticket and all of that. So the flight attendant told her that she was upgraded to first class, and the woman was trying to figure out, how that was possible. You know what I'm saying? So, she took the first class flight anyway, took the first class seat. So at first, she was, took the seat next to the window. And then this guy came with the flight attendant who was sitting in the same row in the same, set of seats. The flight attendant told her that she was in the wrong seat. She was supposed to have the outside seat, and the guy was supposed to take the window seat. But the guy, he offered her the window seat if she wanted it. And right before the lady was able to say anything, she looked up at the flight attendant, and the flight attendant gave her this like this really killer look, like you better not switch seats. You know what I'm saying? So the lady told the guy, that's okay. You can have the seat. And so weird shit just started happening, right? Um, she started the captain himself, you know what I'm saying, winds up coming up to the lady, asking her if she enjoying herself and make sure she buckles up and everything, and he walks off. So the lady, she starts talking to the guy that's sitting next to her, and the guy doesn't know what she's talking about because he didn't see the captain at all. So she thought she was just losing it, you know what I mean? And so out of nowhere, a few passengers just turned around and started smiling at her. I thought that shit was creepy, yo. I can't even front. Even now, if I'm on a plane, right, and you got a bunch of people turning around, just start smiling at you out of nowhere, yo, something's wrong. Something is definitely off. But anyway, shortly after that, she went to the bathroom to try to clear her mind. You know what I'm saying? She splashed water on her face, and then she heard an announcement on the intercom. You know what I'm saying, about buckling up and all that. They was about to take off or whatever. So she went back to her seat, and she asked the guy once again that's sitting next to her, did he hear the announcement on the intercom or whatever? And the guy said no, he still didn't know what she was talking about. So she just felt like, what's going on? Am I losing my mind? And shortly after that, that's when the plane started going. It was an incident where something like ruptured, or not ruptured, but something exploded, and it caused this like gaping hole on the side of the plane where the guy was sitting at next to her. So while she was buckled up, the guy got sucked out the window. So I guess she was lucky to take that seat now. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to remember if I know I just seen the episode, but I'm trying to remember if it was true or false, man, because that part I really didn't pay attention to much. Not this particular story. I think I was in the middle of doing something else, but yeah, that's crazy, yo. But like I said, the story for me gets a 9.5. All right, we're on our last story, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Buenos Dias. So this is about a tornado that had ripped through this town, like this small town, and it tore up a bunch of houses. And this little girl, she got stuck, and you know what I'm saying, in like this hole. And the fire department and everybody else is trying to get her out. So she had a really bad head injury, and she was trying to stay awake, you know. And this little girl that the little girl that played this character, she was a really good actress back then for her age, like really though. But what happened was while she was down there, she was panicking, of course. In the the fire department, they kept telling her to try to stay awake because she was definitely suffering a concussion, and so the little girl eventually almost fell unconscious. Actually, she almost did, but not really. So she had closed the eyes, and the guy was trying to communicate with her, but he couldn't wake her. So out of nowhere, you heard because she wanted her grandfather. Her grandfather meant everything to her. You know what I'm saying? But then out of nowhere, she started hearing his voice, and so she wasn't the only one. Like the fire department, you know what I'm saying? They heard it too. And they're trying to figure out where it was coming from because we had learned that her grandfather actually died in the incident. You know what I'm saying? So nobody knew where it was coming from, but the little girl was communicating with the voice, thinking it was her grandfather. And after they got the little girl out, come to find out, the whole time it was a parrot saying Buenos Dias. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole time, because they had walked out of the rubble of the house. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody was confused, and that's how the story pretty much ended. I give this one a 9.5 as well. It was kind of creepy because of the way the parrot was saying it. Buenos Dias, Luisa. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So this episode for me overall gets a 9 out of 10. Liked it. I really enjoyed this one, and it was even better than it was back then, watching it a second time around. You know what I'm saying? But if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I will greatly appreciate you guys. And I will talk to y'all later. Peace.
The feeling is mutual. Come in, take a seat, share your thoughts with each, and preach it when you speak, so we can share kinetic energy throughout the brainwaves to keep us balanced out and all on the same thing.